November 15th, 2003 Board of Douglas County Commissioners meeting. We welcome those of you who are here with us at the courthouse and those joining online. Some of you may be here to provide public comment. The Board of Douglas County Commissioners welcomes public comment in advance and thanks you for following these procedures. Each action item on the agenda will offer an opportunity for relevant public comment about that topic. We ask that you wait until the agenda item you're here comes up for discussion. Comments related to agenda items are welcomed after the board is an opportunity to discuss the topic. The Board of County Commissioners will invite comments on topics not included on the agenda, on general public comment directly after considering the consent agenda, and this is the time for addressing issues not on today's agenda, but related to the general business of the Douglas County Commission. We'll first call on folks who are here in person, and then we'll turn to online commenters with us here tonight. If you're here on Zoom, please plan to use the raise your hand function when the time comes and listen for staff to call your name. All comments will be limited to 3 minutes, and we ask everyone to give their full name and Douglas County residence for our meeting minutes. All public comments should be directed to the County Commission. Campaigning for public office is not allowed. We also reserve the right to mute or remove any speaker who is vulgar, rude, or inappropriate. The public should know that all comments received by the Commission during our meetings do not represent the views of Douglas County government. If visual aids are used during the meeting, the presenter will share their screen. Please note that the online participants will not be able to view them without a computer, smartphone, or tablet during tonight's meeting. Materials are published online for your reference also. Lastly, a recording of the meeting will be available on our YouTube page and website. Tonight's agenda, we have three items, on the consent agenda. Then we'll do general public comment. We have 3 items on our regular agenda, starting with the new pay wages for public safety, then our broadband grant match procedure proposal, and we'll finish with a letter from the City of Lawrence related to participation in the K-10 South Lawrence Trafficway. After that, we'll have appointments and Commissioner or Administrator miscellaneous before we adjourn. Commissioners, would either of you like to pull an item on our consent agenda for further discussion? No? Anybody from the public like to pull an item from the consent agenda for further discussion?
So we have someone who has their hand raised in the panel, and I'm not sure if they want, okay, they just put their hand down.
Okay, thank you. We'll bring it back to the commission. I take a motion on the consent agenda.
Move to approve items 1.1 through 1.3.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Move to general public comment. Anyone here at the courthouse like to provide general public comment? Anyone online, Sarah?
Yes, we have Rick Kagan in the panel, and I'm going to promote him to the panel for general public comment. Rick, you're in the panel, so you can come off mute, and you have 3 minutes to provide your public comment.
Yeah, thank you very much. And commissioners, appreciate the opportunity to address you tonight. I want to commend the work that was presented during your session earlier on the climate plan. It's very comprehensive and a whole lot for us to absorb, but I have had the opportunity to attend the briefing at the depot recently and had a chance to register some comments there. So I look forward to the board adopting a final plan next year. And I would just want to say, I hope that in executing the plan that you will place a very high priority on aspects of the plan which focus on generating renewable energy resources, including community and industrial scale wind and solar. I know that resources will be limited to implement any aspect of the plan, and I believe that our leadership here in Douglas County in avoiding the worst impacts of climate change is essential. Thank you very much for making time for this issue, and I look forward to your deliberations next year.
Thank you, Rick. Any other public comments? All right, we'll close public comment and move to our regular agenda. We'll start with new pay ranges for public safety. I see Gary's here. Sarah.
Commissioners, we have a team of folks that have worked on this project together, so I guess I'm going to ask Michelle Spreer and Captain Bunting to come to the podium. And answer any questions the commissioners might have about this. Brooke, if you want to come, Brooke can come too. Brooke Sauer, our finance manager. As they're coming up, as commissioners know, this was an item that was discussed as a part of the development of our FY 2024 budget development process, and it was a supplemental request approved. Staff worked, administration staff wanted some time to review the information, work with Sheriff's Office to develop and verify the ranges. So we proceeded with that work over the last few months. Really want to give this team all the credit for all the hard work that was involved in putting all this together. We said at that time we would bring this back to the County Commission for so you could see the final numbers, and there was discussion about the need to include criminal justice services in that calculation. So that information is also, that dollar amount is also included. While this was approved for the FY 2024 budget, it is the recommendation of staff that we do this adjustment this year. I think it will streamline efforts for moving into market and merit in FY 2024 and allow us some simplicity into how to approach it. That will impact ending fund balances because that was not calculated into ending fund balances, but doing it as close to the end of the year as I think we're planning on doing it. I'm not anticipating any significant changes to ending fund balances, but I do want to note that. Michelle, Brooke, Gary, is there anything you'd like to add?
Thank you, Sarah. Commissioners, I don't have anything to add. Really, this work that we've done between us three and Sarah to bring this before you tonight, we'd be very happy to stand for any questions that you may have about how we calculated these values and how we arrived at the scale that is before you tonight. So please, if you have any questions, we're happy to answer them. Do you have anything to add? No? Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure. Any questions? Brooke, could you just give us a little synopsis of how you went about this? And my other question is, how different is this than what we approved in our budget for 2024?
That's a great question. Commissioner Kelly, what we did to arrive at these values here, Gary had done a lot of work to come up with some, preliminary ranges, did a lot of research, and we worked with Austin Peters, who is the firm that had helped us implement our previous pay study to get up to the 70th percentile because we fell behind a couple years back. And what they had recommended specifically for public safety was an 8.4% increase for those ranges to get to the 70th percentile. We likely fell behind with COVID. These are really hard jobs to fill. Gary could probably speak to that much more than I can here in our office. But getting to this point and really using that same analytic tool that Austin Peters provided us to arrive at these values, using that 8.4% to get us up to the 70th percentile.
Commissioners, I don't think there was really any significant changes to what you saw over the summer. I think there was just some clarification on our end as to how to implement it and track it. Previously, when the county had done compression adjustments, we had used promotion date, and those are used for some of these ranges, and some of them we have used higher date. And that was what was proposed by the Sheriff's Office. And that is what we have done that is consistent with criminal justice services. I'm not sure moving forward that would be how we would approach all compression adjustments, but that was part of what was presented to commissioners, and we wanted to bring that forward. It is not throughout the sheriff's range. And so that was part of what you saw, but it was just took us some time to sort of validate those higher dates, start dates, and some of those different types of things. That might be a change that's a little different, and I do think the ranges are slightly different than what we talked about this summer in terms of what that starting pay for correctional officers will be. And maybe Gary, you can talk a little bit about that.
So commissioners, when we met with you earlier this year. The data we collected, and I've learned an extreme amount about pay studies and our pay scale since doing this. So what you were presented with was probably what is called fair market ranges. At that time, I had no idea that our pay system was structured in the manner that it was. At that time, all the data you were presented was the 70th percentile for the fair market ranges, which is a valid method that some places use to establish pay plans. When we gave you that information, I believe what the county administrator is referring to is one of the things in the budget request was, since we consolidated corrections officers and deputies using their hire date, we did the same thing with the numbers that we presented to all of you. So there was no change whatsoever there. The way we kind of viewed it was, since everybody is being established as equal, you kind of have to, most of our people start as corrections officers and then they move into different positions. So a person that has been a corrections officer for 4 years was selected for deputy and has been a deputy for 2 years. And then you had another person that was a corrections officer for 4 years. Well, the one should get 6 years of credit instead of just 2 for, so that's kind of our mindset when we walked into that, but there was no change there from the data that you were presented. Master deputy is just a status change. It's a demonstrated proficiency of the same position, kind of a step up. From our data, we began working very closely with Michelle, Brooke, and Sarah on how to apply this to our current pay scale. So basically the end result was making that what we presented applicable to our current pay scale. So from our perspective, I just wanted to thank the commission very much, on personally as well as from the sheriff's office, on and our personnel and all the support you have given us throughout this process. I would like to sincerely thank Sarah, Brooke, and Michelle for all their work on this also. So if you have any other questions from our part, just please feel free to ask.
So I know we covered this during budget time. It was part of the discussion, but just for all of our listening public, can you mention like which positions got pay increases and which positions did not get pay increases under this?
So basically, every position, every uniformed staff position was evaluated: corrections officer, deputy, master deputy, detective, sergeant, lieutenant, captain, major, undersheriff, and sheriff. So to establish the 70th percentile, all the ranges were adjusted. However, for this particular pay analysis and compression adjustments, only those individuals who are lieutenant and below they're the only individuals whose pay will change as a result of this.
So part of the clarification is your salary wasn't impacted, sheriff's salary wasn't impacted, the upper leadership was not part of that. It was really a question of kind of getting some equity across the starting and on the line uniformed officers.
Yes, our ranges would change. However, our pay will not change. In order, it kind of needed to be adjusted to maintain the pay scale in the system and what the 70th percentile was showing. This was done to kind of stay current with the other agencies and maintain that 70th percentile range and be competitive for hiring. So
I do want to also add the sheriff's office, 4 positions, vacant positions will be eliminated as a part of this, which will allow us for some salary savings in the sheriff's office budget. So that is also helpful to the overall budget.
So part of the purpose for this was to kind of be a little bit competitive with our neighbors. We weren't quite going to ever get there. They just have resources that we don't. But since we've made our adjustments, I'm assuming that our neighbors have also. Is this step getting us there, or are we kind of getting outpaced by the efforts that the other communities did also?
So this will put us on the same playing field now. Market and merit adjustments coming up will keep us current and competitive. What the other jurisdictions are going to do is a good question. At the time I was collecting data, all of them were currently completing studies themselves. So hopefully this keeps us where we need to be.
Questions, commissioners, before we take public comment on this? Are you thinking of going into a different career in HR, I guess, now that you've had all this training on pay scales? You don't have to answer if you don't want to. All right. Just wondering. Okay, we'll see if there's any public comment. Is anyone here at the courthouse like to provide public comment? Anyone online, Sarah? All right, commissioners, back to us. I would just say I appreciate during budget, and I met with the sheriff and Gary a couple, to talk about this through, and there was that idea of we appreciated all the work, but we wanted to test it a little bit, and I appreciate you taking the time to do that and then bringing this back to us. So thank you for that. Appreciate it.
The county's personnel worked extremely hard on helping us get where we need to be, so.
And we're real excited that we can do this year. I think this will be helpful to not only just from an efficiency of operations, but also to get this implemented this year.
And by this year, Sarah, you mean like 2 weeks before the end of the year, right?
Yeah, calendar year 2023.
Right.
So,
Counts.
still counts. Hey, still 2023 to me, so.
I'll make a motion to approve new pay ranges and compression adjustments for the sheriff's office and criminal justice services staff.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes 3-0. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to a broadband grant match procedure.
Commissioners, Jake Broadbent is going to handle this item for us. Turn it over to Jake.
Good evening, Commissioners. Jake Broadbent, Management Analyst. So this year, there have been a few requests for broadband grant match support from our internet service providers in the community, Midco, Charter Communications. And during the budget process this year, there was a desire for a procedure for these requests from the commission to help guide you in the decision-making process. So this procedure will do exactly that. It'll help inform you, hopefully, and guide the decision-making process. And staff has developed this procedure based on past funding decisions you've made, and also from information from the Kansas Office of Broadband Development, as well as feedback we've gotten from Midco, UPN Fiber, City of Lawrence IT staff, and CANREN, which is the Kansas Regional Education Network, helps connect all the universities and schools in the state. And just to update, the KOBD will announce grant awards for the projects that you've pledged funding for, Midco and Charter. Mid-November and late November is what the project said, so any day now, hopefully. And with that, I'll stand for questions and feedback.
Thank you, Jake. Any questions?
I really appreciate this work and giving us a framework so that we're kind of not starting over every time and have kind of the same way of evaluating projects. It's my understanding we can deviate from this as we choose, but this gives us a common framework that will continue from one project to another, since they don't happen all that frequently, and it's easy for us to forget conversations from one to the other, and this kind of helps us evaluate those equally. Thank you for working with all of those partners to kind of help get a procedure that works for this, and I'm really pleased that that part of the budget discussion is it was not just that there'd be funding, but there'd be a way of understanding when that funding could be available for a local match as needed. So I really appreciate the work. Thank you.
Have any questions, Commissioner Reed?
Yeah, I just have one quick question. I'm trying to reflect back to your point, Commissioner Willie, about remembering decision point to decision point. I'm looking at the chart about the different dollar amounts with the different percentages of serving underserved or unserved parts of the county. Is that a factor in that is highlighted and is that a question that will be a part of our process, or that it's naturally included in the applications for the different state and federal monies that they'll be looking for?
Yes, so I believe the Kansas Office of Broadband Development, they require the projects to include that in their grant application.
I zeroed in on that and wanted to, maybe this will help me flag that in future applications as a highlighted portion of it.
Okay, we'll open this up for public comment. Anyone here like to provide public comment on this item? Anyone online, Sarah? Okay, bring it back to the commission. Jake, thanks for all your work on this. I appreciate it that for those who may be considering applying for these grants, it gives a clear process and what our expectations are, at least for whether they might clear a match with us. And it's too bad we didn't have this beforehand, before this first round, but I'm glad we do now. And I'm excited about it. I'm a nut for process, and so this is good work. Well done.
Chair, I would make a motion if you'd let me. I move to adopt the broadband grant match procedure as presented by staff.
Second. Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes 3-0. All right, we're on to our last agenda item, which is a letter from the City of Lawrence related to commitment of local participation on the K-10 South Lawrence Traffic Way.
Thanks, commissioners. I appreciate, I appreciate you hearing this item tonight. Just a little background on this project. As the commission knows, the Kansas Department of Transportation has been planning for a expansion of the western leg of the South Lawrence Traffic Way. That would be from the I-70 interchange at Lecompton down to US 59. The Kansas Department of Transportation has evolved in their view of local projects at this point, and it really encourages local matches to those projects. City of Lawrence and county staff have had several meetings with KDOT staff about what that match would be and what projects would qualify as having a match for the project. As a part of that, a significant piece of it was the Wakarusa Road extension down to E1000 Road. That had been a project that was included on both the city and the county's CI capital improvement plans for a number of years, and was to be jointly funded by both the city and the county. The City of Lawrence voted to maintain their commitment to the local match, but not financially support that specific project. City of Lawrence staff and Douglas County staff met numerous times to talk about how how the City of Lawrence could make that commitment to the local match, but not specifically relate to that project. So what it really took is staff sitting down and talking about what projects are currently being are responsibilities of the county that could be transferred to the city as a result of this project. And our county engineer, Chad Voigt, I was hoping he would be here for this to help explain if there's any specific projects, questions on any specific projects. I'll do my best. But I know when we met, these are projects that in some cases are really things that probably should have, this is a transition that should be made anyway. For the city to annex 31st Street north of K10 between Michigan Street and O'Connell, really, that's a small sliver of land that really belongs in the city. And so I would say that a significant portion of this project is allowing us to tidy up some projects that should be transferred between partners. So there's one of that. The city park, the park projects are also a part of that. Douglas County doesn't operate parks inside the city of Lawrence, but we did own land that was associated with some parks inside Lawrence. So this will transfer the ownership of that park property to the city and clarify, any decisions that need to be made regarding to that land. I do want to thank our partners at the city of Lawrence for this process, how it was a very collegial and just positive process. I'm trying to think of the right word. Positive process to discuss how we should go about this project. And that really speaks to a lot of evolution in how the city and the county work together on projects. I'm really proud of that work, that we were able to do so in a way that was really great, and it really demonstrates the progress we've made as partners to work together here. So from a staff perspective, we're supportive of these changes. It allows us to continue to meet our match to KDOT. Next steps, and I think the way I worded the item on the agenda is to direct staff to put together legal agreements that would solidify these changes related between the city and the county, and then also allows us to solidify our match to KDOT. Commissioners, I stand for any questions you might have.
I've followed the conversation about these projects, so I don't have any specific questions. I do want to commend Sarah and commend our public works staff and the city staff for how well that process has gone. It took significant amount of creativity to kind of suss out what some of these projects were that really needed to be cleaned up anyway. And I'm really pleased with the product you've brought us.
Sir, I just have a question about the second bullet, the 10-year maintenance cost at $300,000. Because this is a match, if they do $300,000 of work in 8 years, is that, or what happens if it takes 12 years to hit 300,000? Did you talk about that at all?
Really what our goal here is to transfer the responsibility for those bridges to the city. Those are brand new bridges. So that is an estimate for what that maintenance cost would be. If it's $280,000, they're not going to come back and say, you owe us $20,000. Those bridges are now their responsibility. They're currently the county's responsibility.
So they would be their responsibility going forward after
Correct.
that. It's not just for the 10-year period.
Oh, yeah. We were just trying to come up with an idea to give you a sense of what that maintenance cost would be over a time period.
Got it.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll open up for public comment. Anyone here like to provide public comment on this item? Anyone online?
Nope.
All right, back to the commission.
So Commissioner Reed, I will echo Commissioner Willey's comments and just give my appreciation to Sarah and staff here, as well as partners at the city, for taking the time to come up with a thoughtful and creative solution to a new problem that we found ourselves with. So anyway, I appreciate that took a lot of time and thought, and hope that it helps our departments in particular feel like things are getting tidied up in a really productive way for them. So with that, I will make a motion to prepare the appropriate legal agreements to document the exchange of capital improvement projects and the local match for the expansion of western leg of K10 South Lawrence Trafficway project.
Second.
Moved and seconded, and before we vote, I just want to make a note that Robinson Park is included in this, and I think many people in the community don't know maybe where that is. That is the park right next to City Hall that's had a lot of activity on it, and the return of a sacred rock to the Valley people. And so I think it's very important to recognize, some people forget that the county owned that. It has a long history. I hope the county commission will stay engaged in talking about how we rethink that space and what to do going forward. So with that, unless there's any other comments, all those in favor say aye.
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 Passes 3-0. Thank you, Sarah. All right, we'll move on to appointments. I think we had a new opening that we got notice of on
Housing
Lawrence
Authority.
Douglas County Housing Authority. And commissioners, I don't know if you've had a chance to find a replacement there, but I think that's something that we're working on.
They would also, I mean, the Housing Authority could suggest names too as well. I just wanted to let you know that it's going to come open at the end of the year if you've got some folks. to
Okay.
suggest.
And then we'll move on to miscellaneous. And Sarah, you're gonna get us started here with your memo.
Actually, in terms of appointments, we do have a BZA appointment. That, I don't know if that conversation has completely come around to other commissioners, though. Do we need to wait on that?
I don't know that I have who should be appointed.
Okay, I'd heard from zoning and code staff that they'd had an interested party that I thought was a good fit, but I will make sure that that kind of circles back and gets where it needs to go.
Yeah, let me get that together. On my memo, commissioners, I just want to point out, we do have the general election canvass next Monday at 9 a.m. at the election office. Commissioner Kelly will not be able to attend. Register of Deeds, Kent Brown, has agreed to step in and serve as your delegate on the canvas, so he will be at that event. I also want to talk a little, we will not be meeting next week, so we're off next week. For the week after that, for the last week of November, right now I'm showing an overview. What I'd like to do, and I think I'm going to be on track for this. If not, I may push it back, and I'll have another work session for you, but you will have a work session on the 29th. Our hope is to pull together just kind of what I'm calling Neighborhood Revitalization Act and Tax Increment Financing 101, a little bit of just background on what those different incentives are and the county's role in administering some of those incentives and how many of those incentives we have countywide. Really want to highlight a very hardworking team in this building between the appraiser's office, the county clerk's office, administration, and the treasurer's office that work to administer all of those different incentives and also maintain the land records and tax administration process. So those folks don't get a lot of opportunities to meet you all and to talk about their work, and they work tremendously hard. In fact, we're in the process of finalizing tax bills for 2023, and those should hit mailboxes next week. So my hope is that we have an overview for that on the 29th. If not, and also included in that agenda will be an update to the burn ban. So depending on what I have timing on, it'll be on that agenda for the 29th. And that will have a code change too. So we're going to make sure the burn ban is appropriately with the code. So we're coming down into the end of the year. I am showing that we will meet on the 20th for our final meeting of the year for the county commission, and then not meet for the Wednesday after that. Commissioners, I stand for any questions you might have.
Thank you, Sarah. Any questions for Sarah? Nope. Any other miscellaneous items?
I do see the drug court graduation on here, and I would put in a plug. I got to attend drug court last month, and it was a really fabulous experience. So I kind of recommend for anybody who, if you probably have already had the chance, but it's a really valuable program, and it was fun and rewarding to be a part of that. And I think the graduation would be fun too, and I hope to get there.
Okay, if there's nothing else, we are adjourned.